Hey everybody, my name's Mike Montgomery, and today I'm going to be showing you how I'm turning this school bus into a tiny house. And in today's episode, we're going to be building out the bedroom on Modern Builds.
Today's video is sponsored by Squarespace. Go to squarespace.com/modernbuilds for 10% off your first website or domain.
In the first episode of this bus series, linked down in the description, I cleared out and I cleaned up this entire bus. Let's take a look back at what this bedroom space looked like before episode 1. It was a wreck. But in today's video, we're going to be building out the bedroom here in the back of the bus. Obviously, we've got to cover up this engine compartment. I'm going to be building a huge bed platform. It's going to be a ton of fun, so stay tuned.
I used 2x4s to build out the structure for this platform that the bed will be sitting on. On these 2x4s I'm calling the rails, I made a mark at every 18 inches where I want a cross support, and I'm using these Simpson strong tie brackets to connect the 2x4 cross supports to the rails, which will be attached to the 3/4 inch plywood on the walls. You can find these connectors at Home Depot, and I'll leave links down in the description. They're typically used for building sheds or decks or just general home repairs around the house. The height of this bed platform was determined by two things: the wheel wells and the height of the engine compartment, which I wanted to cover. I made marks at the other end of the 2x4 so that I made sure to screw it on straight, and then I locked it into that 3/4 inch piece of plywood on each side of the 2x4 brackets. After the rails were attached, I cut more 2x4s to length with the circular saw and speed square so that they could be cross supports for the bed platform. The brackets I used are neat because you don't need a perfect fit, although I still ended up getting pretty tight margins. The brackets I used allow me to toe screw the 2x4s together for a really strong fit. After I had all of these pieces connected, the platform was really starting to gain strength. I didn't want a visible bracket on the end of these 2x4s, so I just toe screwed straight into the 2x4 rail to cap off the platform. Of course, this isn't quite as strong, but there's going to be a lot of layers to this whole build out, and it's no problem down the line. And here we have an 8-foot platform that is the beginning of this whole build out. But I'm not stopping there. I need the platform to extend past the wheel wells, which is going to make a platform that's about 9 feet long. So what you see me screwing together here is the end of the platform where I got built-in stairs that are going to go into the wheel wells. I screwed this whole piece together using 2.5 inch long construction screws, and once it was all put together, I could move it inside of the bus and test the fit. I was happy to find out that it worked out great on the first try, so then I could screw it into place. I used 1/8 inch strips to raise this assembly off the ground a little bit so that the treads running down the center of the bus floor have room to go underneath this assembly. And I secured this piece to the plywood walls as well as the plywood subfloor underneath the vinyl.
Here we go, board number 2.
Securing these boards wasn't fun, but it made the skeleton of this platform way stronger.
Holy cow, that was tough.
So if you're already a fan of Modern Builds, you know I have a tendency of overbuilding a little bit, especially on construction projects. I would rather something be stronger than it needs to be than break down the line. So here, you see me using the circular saw to cut legs that I'll attach to those cross supports that we just added. I screwed them straight down from the top of the rail and toe screwed them into the plywood subfloor of the bus. And after this was done, I could run to Home Depot and grab all the plywood for this platform. I used 3/4 inch radiata pine because it's got a thick face veneer, and I picked up quite a few sheets because I'm going to need a lot for this project. The first thing I did was freehand cut these panels to width. The platform is going to be 2 sheets wide. Then I marked and cut the access panels that are going to be on either side of the mattress. I used the circular saw and the jigsaw so that I could clean up all the corners. With the first panel installed, I knew everything was fitting correctly, so I cut the panel for the left side of the platform the exact same way as the first. Super pro. I'm learning that scribing and cutting to fit the majority of the pieces is the best way to get good results on this bus project, so that's what I did for the majority of the pieces here on out. I was reading the comments on the first school bus episode, and a lot of people were impressed that I was cutting so many things freehand. And my big piece of advice for that is actually working on the floor. If you're able to stand over your blade and see the line that you're cutting, it's much easier than working and cutting on a work table. These 1 1/4 inch trim screws that I've been using all over the place on the bus are awesome because the head on them are so small, they basically disappear when you add a little bit of wood filler. I also used quite a bit of wood glue anywhere that I had plywood to plywood connections, especially on these stairs because I couldn't get a lot of screws where I wanted them. By the time I was this far into the project, almost every surface was a little bit out of square, so I marked and cut everything to fit with my circular saw. One thing I did make sure to keep with me though was a 6-inch speed square. Even though I wasn't tying in directly to the 2x4 studs everywhere, I wanted to make sure that the outward facing edges of this platform were still 90 degrees to each other.
And right now I'd like to give a big thanks to this video's sponsor. You know them, you love them, they've been making Modern Builds videos possible for a long time, and that's Squarespace. Squarespace is the #1 shop for you to build your own website, and the best part is you need zero website building experience. If you can drag and drop files and edit text blocks, you are well on your way to making a custom designer website. Squarespace's library of built-in designer templates look incredible right out of the gate, whether you're looking to start an online store, a portfolio to show your work, or a landing page to connect with potential customers. I built the first version of the Modern Builds website using Squarespace long before they were a sponsor, and now that they are, I couldn't be more happy or proud to recommend them to you guys. So make sure and go to squarespace.com/modernbuilds where you can build your own website without entering any of your credit card info. Then, when it's time to go live, make sure and use the code ModernBuilds for 10% off your first site. Thanks, Squarespace. Right now, I'm really happy with how this bed platform is coming out. It's super sturdy, and having these access panels to storage underneath on the sides of the platform couldn't be more convenient. Of course, the mattress is gonna take up the majority of this platform, but this is gonna make everything a little bit more useful. And one thing that I want to be sure to take advantage of is all of this space underneath the platform in the front. Now, I wish I could just have one long drawer that would go out so I could access all of this space, but I've got this bathroom wall in the way. So instead, I'm just going to create a false panel that's removable using magnets to create a really discreet hidden profile. Let's go for it.
So just like before, this is rinse and repeat. I made a plywood blank that was a little bit oversized, and I used a pin to mark and cut everything to fit perfectly. Once again, I used the circular saw for all of my long straight cuts and the jigsaw to clean up all of the corners. I added this ledge onto that 2x4 so that I could attach some screws that the magnets are gonna stick to. I needed a little bit of an offset because they take up about 1/4 inch of space. I grabbed these magnets a little while back off of Amazon, and I'll leave a link down in the description.
Let's go!
With the platform done, it was time to start working on the headboard. If you watched episode 1 of this school bus series, you saw me attach 2x4s onto the sheet metal walls of the bus all over the place, and I'm using the exact same screws and technique to do that again. These rails are gonna give me 1.5 inch offset off of the engine compartment so that I have really clean lines with my sidewalls. It also just gives me something to secure the plywood to. I used the same basic technique for the window seat, but instead of a 2x4 spacer, I used a piece of 3/4 inch plywood. I've given myself about 1/8 inch of acceptable tolerance everywhere that I'm cutting custom pieces for this bus, and it's making it relatively easy to fit them in. But I do need to come back with a little bit of silicone caulk to clean up all of my corners. Radiata pine plywood is nice because it's more affordable than other hardwoods. It's also really cool because you can get matching select pine 1x material, and it's way cheaper than getting oak or maple at Home Depot. I grabbed really nice 1x3 pieces to cap off the plywood half walls. That way you can't see the 2x4 rails underneath. I know I say this almost every construction project, but adding trim might be my favorite step. It's finally the moment where you get to cover up the last of the unfinished layers and everything just looks finished. Even though it was a little bit tedious doing all of that scribing. My go-to wood filler right now is DAP Natural Wood Filler. Not the color changing stuff, just natural wood finish. It tends to dry the best color.
I'll tell you what, the only downside to all this woodworking is there's gonna be a lot of sanding. With radiata pine plywood, I typically sand with 120 and then 180 or 220 grit sandpaper. But instead of doing that, I'm just gonna sand once to save time with 150 grit and see how that comes out.
To smooth out everything in this bedroom, I think I sanded for 3 hours straight, and I just sanded with 150 like I said, and it came out perfectly smooth. Definitely recommended.
Throughout today's video, you've been seeing me wear these. Not only are they my hearing protection, but they're also high-quality Bluetooth earbuds called plug phones. With a 12-hour battery life, I can wear my plug phones all day while I'm working on the bus or in the shop, and it blocks out all of the tool noise. Plug phones sound great, and they're super loud. I think my volume is normally on 3 out of 10. If you're interested in learning more or picking some up, I couldn't recommend it more. Make sure and go to plugphones.com and use the discount code ModernBuilds at checkout for 15% off. Thanks, plug phones. Now back to the build.
Everywhere that I've got wood surfaces in this bus, I'm probably going to be using water-based polyurethane. And the reason for that is it dries a little bit more clear than an oil-based finish, which tends to add an amber hue to the wood. Now with hardwoods like walnut and maple, this can be a really good thing. It makes the color really rich. But with pine, it just makes it look yellow, almost like golden oak from the 70s.
Yesterday, I bought bedding, and it's gonna be this cool two-tone, and I want these colors to be on the headboard and other places in the bedroom. So I'm gonna go get paint that matches these perfectly at Home Depot. Oh, this is gonna be sick.
This teal and pink color that I've chosen for the bedding and the paint are a little bit more Art Deco than what I typically do. The majority of Modern Builds projects tend to play off of mid-century and modern color schemes where there's a lot of warm wood tones, crisp white, and primary colors. But I'm really liking where the whole design trend around Art Deco shapes and colors is going. It's a lot more pinks, teals, velvets, and soft colors and textures. So I figured what better place to introduce these elements in Modern Builds than on this bus in the bedroom episode. I also used this same pink to paint the outside of the bathroom wall facing into the bedroom. By the time I was finished painting that bathroom wall, I could peel off the masking tape on the headboard and window seat. And holy cow.
Super pro. Oh, wow. That is so cool.
I mean, come on. These colors with the visible edge of the plywood, fire.
Now before I can call this project done, I've got to fix one mistake I made, and that was with the electrical. Whenever I installed these outlet boxes, I didn't realize that I needed to set them off of the 2x4s a little bit. That way, they would stick out far enough that they would extend past this plywood. And right now, with shipping being a little weird, instead of ordering specialty parts, I'm gonna fabricate some. I'm gonna get some 1/8" plate steel back from Maker Ranch, and I'm gonna use the angle grinder and the jigsaw to cut out some openings for these outlets.
The openings are centered on the plate with about 1/8 of an inch margin around the plug.
Then I'll use the welder to create a collar that'll go around the outlet to clean everything up. Now I want to be really clear, this recess is going to be in the way of some outlet bricks, but that's what I've got to do, and sometimes with DIY, you just have to make things work.
Before you comment it, let me go ahead and say it. Yes, I am bad at welding right now. I'm definitely out of practice, but it got the job done, and I added a couple of coats of spray paint onto these outlet covers. Then I could install them onto the plywood half walls. The last thing I needed to do before I could call this project finished was add some finger holes into the access panels on the sides of the platform, making sure to use masking tape to prevent chip out. And with that, this bedroom is done. Now let's head back to before we were working on this project whatsoever, the redneck RV days. It definitely was ugly, it wasn't functional, and we got it to a good starting point last episode. But now, let's check the after. So let me just jump in and say what I always do. I couldn't be more excited with how this came out. All of the storage is going to be so useful, especially considering how much space is underneath that platform. And I love the fact that I extended the platform out even further over those wheel wells. It created a bench, which is really convenient for putting on shoes or boots. I'm not exactly sure what's going in the front of this storage area, maybe shoes and boots with long-term storage behind it. Moving up to the front of the bus is where we get to experience all of the color and textures that we were able to create in this space. When you lay down, the bed sits at almost the exact same height as all of the windows around the platform, which means you've got 360-degree views all around the bedroom, which is so cool. For most of the year here in Joshua Tree, you can rely on keeping the windows open and having a little bit of a breeze to keep your space comfortable, so having this window seat is really fun. Plus, I was happy to see that the plug idea worked. Another aspect of living in a bus that I'm really excited about is the fact that it's basically got a sunroof. If I pop open this emergency hatch, not only can I let the heat rise out, but during nice weather, especially at night, I can go stargazing or checking out the clouds. And speaking of night, this bedroom looks incredible at night. I added lamps and some string lights for some nice ambient lighting that's not too aggressive. Obviously, a bedroom is where you want things to be calm and tranquil, and that's what I was shooting for, and I think I hit a bullseye.
So that's it. Thanks a ton for watching, guys, and I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you're new to my channel, make sure and click that subscribe button and the notification bell. That way you stay updated every time I post new videos. If you want to keep up with me throughout the week, Instagram is the best place to do that, and you can find me at Modern Builds. I post there almost every day. I want to give one more huge thanks to everybody who watched episode 1 and for all the support on this school bus to tiny house series. Episode 3 is going to be the bathroom, and I cannot wait to get started. One thing that I'm still unsure about though is this pink wall on the outside of the bathroom. Now I know I want some sort of mirror wall or organization system here, but I think the best move is to actually finish up the bus, get moved in, and realize what storage needs I actually have. That way I don't build something generic and not well suited. So let me know if you have any ideas. A lot of what I'm doing is designing on the fly and making things work, but let's turn the comments into a positive section where we can throw out cool ideas and things I might be able to try. Otherwise, one more huge thanks for all the support so far. The first episode of the tiny house build has already crossed 500,000 views, so let's make episode 2 big as well. So thanks again, and we'll see you next time on Modern Builds. I can't believe I just fell down right there, but I'm okay. See you guys.